स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विश्वपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वतीनिति नामिने श्रीवार्षभानवी देवी दयिताय कृपाब्धये कृष्णसम्बन्धविज्ञान दायिने प्रभवे नमः माधुर्योज्ज्वलप्रेमाढ्य श्रीरूपानुगभक्तिदा श्रीगौराकरुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुगाविरुद्धाप सिद्धान्तद्वान्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षाद्वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्बारसाम्बोधे पादाम्बुजायते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगावरायते गौराविर्भावभूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्टा सज्जनप्रियः वैष्णवसार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषै नमः पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधौ दीनबन्धौ जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते जयतां सुरतोर्पङ्गुर्मामन्दमतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वापदाम्बोजो राधामदनमोहनो दिव्यद्वृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमादः श्रीमद्रत्नागारसिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद्राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवो दृष्ट्वा लिपिसेव्यमानो स्मरामि श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भे वंशीवटतटस्थितः हर्षं वेणुसनेर्गोपे गोपीनाथः श्रीयस्तुनः तप्तकाञ्चन प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे somehow after passing through so many birds in different species lower than the humans. So the living entity has now come to the human form of life in the womb of a human. Kapila, he further explains about the living entity in the womb in this particular uh, chapter. And also he talks about the bhakti which the living entity expresses to the Lord in this particular chapter. Now, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Karmana Daiva Netrena Janturdehopapatyate Sriya Pravishta Udaram Pumso Retas Kanashraya Jantu Deha Papataye. The Jiva receives a human body. Pravishtaha udaram pumso. he entered the human birth or human body. Karmana, based on what? Karmana. And this karma is under the control of Daivanetrena. Daivanetrena means under the superintendence. Daivanetrena. Hmm. How? Striyaha pravishta udaram pumso retaha. Pumso retaha means from the semen of the man, it entered into the striyaha udaram, in the stomach of a womb of the woman. It entered. No. Kalalam tu ekaratrena pancharatrena budbudam dashaena tu karnikandu pesha andavata param. So now the gradual development of the living entity, how the body develops the living entity gradually, that is described. In the first night, semen is mixed with blood. Kalalam tu ekaratrena pancharatrena budbudam. On the fifth night, it takes the form of a bubble. And Dashahena, on the 10th day, Karkanduhu means it becomes the size of a Karkandu tree, fruit, bare fruit. And then Peshe Andam Tata Param. Then it becomes a small ball of flesh, like an egg of the bird, like etc. Andam va tata param. Read the purport.
The body of the soul develops in four different ways according to its different sources. One kind of body, that of the tree and plants, sprouts from earth. The second kind of body grows from perspiration, as with flies, germs and bugs. The third kind of body develops from eggs, and the fourth develops from an embryo. This verse indicates that after emulsification of the ovum and sperm, the body gradually develops either into a lump of the flesh or into an egg, and as the case may be. In the case of the birds, it develops into an egg, and in the case of animals and human beings, it develops into a lump of flesh.
So there are four. What are the four? Andaja, Swetaja, Bijaja, and Udara, embryo. Trees from the bija, seed, and worms from the sweat. And Andaja means egg, birds, and from the embryo, human beings, mammals. Masena tu shiro dvabhyam bahvangradanga vigraha naga lomasti charmasti linga chitrodbhavastrivihi. So gradually the development of the embryo happens like this. In 2 months you can find some head, arms, legs being developed. Tribihi, in the 3rd month, the nails, body hairs, bones, skin, genitals, and other senses also appear. So these are all exactly matching with the modern sonography reports. If you go to a gynecologist, then they'll explain all these things. This is how it is that the embryo grows. The 6 transformations of matter, what are they? Birth, growth, from some time, then byproducts, mingling. Among these two, growth and growth and giving birth. These two are because of the combination of matter and spirit. Like matter is stable, you come after 15 years, it will stable only. But a small kid, after 15 years, maybe a small kid will be wrong with that. Isn't it? The table will not grow. Growth and then, number two, birth, reproduction is because of the presence of the spirit in matter. Next. Chaturvirdhatvah sapta panchabhikshutradubhayaha shadbirjarayunavita kuksho brahmayati dakshine. So in the fourth one, Chaturbihi, Datavaha. What are the Sapta Dhatus? First is Rakta, Mamsa, Majja, Asti, and ultimately last is Virya. Okay. Sapta Dhatavaha. Now, Chaturbihi, in the fifth month, hunger and thirst appears, becomes hungry. Sixth month, Shadbihi, Jaranyuhu Vita. He starts moving. Kuksho Brahmayati Dakshine. Brahmayati Dakshine means the embryo starts moving towards Dakshina is right side. Because when you stand in front of the sun towards the east, on the right hand is south. That is why it is called Dakshine Chand. It is not south of it is not south, it is the right side of Chaitanya is Nitya. And Bhame, Vam Bhag means on the left side is Gadadhar. So that is the position. The word Dakshina doesn't refer there to south. Right side. That movements. So it is said that male fetus move towards the right side and female move towards the left side. So there's something interesting to know from the scriptures. So that it is a male begins to move onto the right side and female tries to move towards the left side. So they want to do the test of the embryo, whether male or female. If female is there, kill them now. Yes. It's very dangerous. So much killing of the female fetus happened in certain parts of India because a female is born. Oh, who is going to get her married? Male is auspicious. So let her kill her in the womb. And then it happened not in thousands, lakhs. And there's so much disproportion happened, especially one state called Gujarat. Earlier they were afraid of Dahej and they were killing the girls. Now what has happened now? The girls' number has gone down and the boys' number has increased. And the boys are not getting the girls. So they give the money and get married. In certain communities it happened like that, especially in Gujarat. I heard about it. Matru jagdhana panadir edhya dhatu sasammate shete vinnutrayor atre sa jantu sambhave. So now who is feeding her? Feeding by the baby? Matu. Jagadhana panadyair. So the dhatus are nourished by the food and liquid from the mother. Sete vinmutrayor gate sa jantuhu sambhave. So the whole situation is very obnoxious. That is, there is stool, there is urine around. It is not actually inside the womb, it is surrounding the womb. Many people say, hey, inside womb is well protected, we don't have any bacteria, but it's not like that, it is around. You may say, I'm in a very nice, wonderful room, but around there is a lot of stool and urine. It's like that. Mhm. Okay. So, many people have objected this thing. How can you say it's like that? Uh, Many doctors also told, no, womb is where place where there is no insects, there is no worms and all. It is actually surrounding the womb. Read the purport.
In the Markandeya Purana, it is said that the intestine of the mother, the umbilical cord, which is known as apayayani, joins the mother to the abdomen of the child, and through this passage, the child within the womb accepts the mother's assimilated foodstuffs. In this way, the child is fed by the mother's intestines within the womb and grows from day to day. The statement of the Markandeya Purana about the child's situation within the womb is exactly corroborated by modern medical science, and thus the authority of the Puranas cannot be disproved, as is sometimes attempted by the Mayavadi philosophers. Since the child depends completely on the assimilated foodstuffs of the mother during pregnancy, there are restrictions on food taken by mother. Too much salt, chili, onion, and similar food is forbidden for the pregnant mother because the child's body is too delicate and new for him to tolerate such pungent foods. Restriction and precautions to be taken by the pregnant mother, as enunciated in the Smriti scriptures of the Vedic literatures, are very useful. We can understand from the Vedic literature how much care is taken to beget a nice child in society. The Garbhadan ceremony before sexual intercourse was compulsory for persons in the higher grades of society and is very scientific. Other processes recommended in the Vedic literature during pregnancy are also very important. To take care of the child is the primary duty of the parents, because if such care is taken, society will be filled with good population to maintain peace and prosperity of the society, country, and the human race.
So the child depends completely on the assimilated food of the mother during pregnancy. The restrictions of food taken by the mother. Now they eat anything. Very dangerous. And because of that, malnutrition starts from the womb itself. They eat anything, they see anything, not only just eat, whatever you see the thighs, that goes to the Garbhadana Sanskar, and there is one full chapter on how, on pregnancy itself in the Ayurvedic scriptures. Unfortunately, it's not well taken care. In every house in our village, there is a room where the pregnant women are there and they deliver the child. There is no hospital to go and deliver. Most of the deliveries used to happen at home only. And everything was normal. Now it's all kaat pit ke dal. Kaat pit ke nikal. And it's a good business for doctors. They say some complications come. Why? All the births used to happen naturally. Just see a pig delivers 6, 7, sometimes 12 children at the same time. But no cesarean is required. No cesarean is required. It is all human because of abnormal activities, late marriages, so many situations. At the age of 30, they are giving birth. What to do? By the age of 30, people have about 6, 7 children. Anyhow, this is all.
This case of birth starts of a child, natural delivery is understood.
Yeah.
In case of cesarean, how to
So Shani has started right from that. And cutting Rahu. All malicious planets are already available for him at the time of birth itself. So the Maharaj is there already, the doctor who cut the child and remove. Anyhow. Krimipekshatta sarvanga saukurmaryat pratikshanam murchannapno jurukleshas tatra ekshudratayir muhu. So the condition is so horrible. Now the limbs are injured because the hunger of the worm is situated in all times. Under the pain, what does he do? The fetus, murchan apnoti uruklesha. Because the uruklesha means very severe misery. Murchan apnoti means faints. The kid faints, the baby faints because of the torture. Read the purport.
The miserable condition of material existence is not only felt when one comes out of the womb of the mother, but also present within the womb. Miserable life begins from the moment the living entity begins to contact his material body. Unfortunately, we forget this experience and do not take the miseries of birth very seriously. In Bhagavad Gita, therefore, it is specifically mentioned that one should be very alert to understand the specific difficulties of birth and death. Just as during the formation of this body, we have to pass through so many difficulties within the womb of the mother. At the time of death, there are also many difficulties. As described in the previous chapter, one has to transmigrate from one body to another, and the transmigration into the bodies of dogs and hogs is especially miserable. But despite such miserable conditions, due to the spell of Maya, we forget everything and become enamored by the present so-called happiness, which is described as actually no more than a contraction to distress.
Next. Katoti kshoshna lavana ruksha mala divir ulbhanai matro bhungte rupasprishta sarvangotita vedata. So when the mother is eating food, what kind of food she is eating? Katu. Katu means bitter. Tikshna means pungent. Ushna means hot, chilly. Lavana means salt. Ruksha means dry. Amla means sour. So when the mother is eating these things and the baby is very difficult for her to tolerate. That is how. So what to eat during the time of pregnancy was very well known to our grandmothers. Unfortunately, that science has gone. So many problems, unfortunately. For every problem they take a medicine which creates another problem, they take another medicine. This is the whole womb of the mother becomes a chemical industry during pregnancy. Next. Ulbena samvritastasmin antareischa bahiravritah aste kritva shirah kaksho bhukno prishta shirodhara. So what is the position of the living entity within the womb? He has got bhukna prishtaha, bent back, and shirodhara. So his shira, his head is near udara. The head is near the stomach, some kind of yoga. Bent back. And antraischa bahir avrataha. Bahiravrata, surrounded by a covering on top of it. That is how fetus is completely fit into one bag, like this. You must have seen some photographs. 5,000 years back, Bhagavatam writes all these things. How do they know that? That shows this knowledge is revealed by Veda. Next. Akalpa swanga cheshtayam sakunta iva pranjare tatra labdha smritir daivat karma janma satobhayam sarvam dirgamanuchanvasam sharma kim nama vindate. So now he cannot move now because he's like a Shakunta iva panjare, means a bird being captured in the cage. Now, tatra labdha smritir daivat. In that situation, labdha smritir daivat by some previous karma, he remembers the previous life and all the actions what he has done. Karma janma shatobhavam. For Shatodbhavam, 100 lifetimes he remembers at that time. 100 lifetimes. Now, in that situation, he says, Sharma kim nama vindate. What does he think? What is a? Huh? What kind of life I am living? He starts thinking. At that time, Arabdhya Saptaman Masal Labdha Buddhopi Vepitaha Naikacharte Sruti Vachait Vishtabhur Iva Sodara. Now, Saptaram Masal Labdha Buddhopi Vepitaha. So now he attained how many months? 7 months. Now, at that time, he attains what? Consciousness. What is the meaning of consciousness, attaining consciousness? Life came now or what? Consciousness was there, right? But it is not fully manifest. Now the child can manifest the consciousness, speak also. All these things can be done. They can hear the child speaking. 7th month, somebody goes and tries to, some sounds come to them, start speaking also. Consciousness there. All these things happen because of the airs which are moving now. And it's now trying to push the child, take birth, take birth, take birth. And the movement starts because of the movement of the airs, vata starts. Yes. It's not mentioned here. You can speculate, no problem. You can speculate. It can be any birth also. But generally, it is human birth. But there is an understanding of the previous births also. Some experiences definitely there. Because not every baby remembers. Only the babies who have done some sukruti in the past, which is Bhakti Unmukha Sukruti. Some Bhakti, only they remember. Not all babies, you should know that. Not all babies chant these verses, which are going to be there in the further verses. Not all babies do that. Only few. Daivat. So read the purport.
At the end of the 7th month, the child is moved by the bodily air and does not remain in the same place. For the entire uterine system becomes slackened before delivery. The worms have been described here as Sodara. Sodara means born of the same mother. Since the child is born from the womb of the mother, and the worms are also born of the fermentation within the womb of the same mother, under the circumstances, the child and the worms are actually brothers. We are very anxious to establish universal brotherhood among human beings, but we should take into consideration that even the worms are our brothers. What to speak of other living entities? Therefore, we should be concerned about all the living entities.
Prabhupada's purpose is transcendental. Next. Na tamana rishir saptavat kritanjali sutviva tvam kalvya vacha yeno darer pita. So, na athama na rishir bhitaha. Rishi. What is the meaning of Rishi? Huh? Why living entity is called Rishi? Acha, the living entity there in the womb is trying to control senses. Rishi refers to Rishim Nishamahe. Rishim refers to one who is contemplating, or one who is an intelligent person, one who is a wise. So it is not all living entities, but only those who are now na athamana rishir bhitaha saptavat gitanjalihi. So he is bound by the sapta dhatus. Kritanjali means he folds his hands. And stuvita tam vikalvaya vacha. Vikalvaya vacha means flattering words. Vikalvaya vacha, flattering or in a very distressed condition. Stuvita tam vikalvaya vacha yeno darer pitaha. Oh Lord, who placed me in this womb? Who has put me in this womb? So, and this Jiva is called Rishi because he could identify himself that he is covered by the Sapta Dhatus. I am not the Sapta Dhatus. I am bound by these Sapta Dhatus. So that Jiva has got the realization that is not this body. Kind of realization. And now he's afraid. What is that fear? I may take repeated birth and death. I have taken a lot of births, now also I may take. In this way, he, the Jiva, is praying to the Lord. Read the purport.
It is said that when a woman is having labor pains, she promises that she will never again become pregnant and suffer from such a severely painful condition. Similarly, when one is undergoing some surgical operation, he promises that he will never again act in such a way as to become diseased and have to undergo medical surgery. Or when one falls into danger, he promises that he will never again make the same mistake. Similarly, the living entity, when put into a hellish condition of life, prays to the Lord that he will never again commit sinful activities and have to put into the womb for repeated birth and death. In the hellish condition within the womb of whom the living entity is very much afraid of being born again. But when he is out of the womb, when he is in full life and good health,
He forgets everything and commits again and again the same sins for which he was put into that horrible condition of existence.
Next. Jantur Uvacha. Jantu is speaking that with folded hands. Tasyopashamanam avitam jagadichayata nanatanorbuvichalatcharanarvindam soham rajami sharanam hi kuto bhayam me yene trishigatiradharsya satru nupaupa. Tasyopashamanam avitum jagadichayata nanata norbuvichala charanaravindam soham rajami sharanam. Aham rajami sharanam means aham rajami sharanam. What does it mean? I take shelter, surrender. Of what? Charanaravindam. Lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Why? He akuto bhayam me. Because it bestows fearlessness. And nana tanor bhuvichalat. The same Lord appears on this world, on this earth, in nana tanor, in different forms, and he walks. Why? Why? Yes, why? To protect people, to give fearlessness to people. Yene drashi gadiradrishya sato nurupa asato nurupa, because of my so many sinful activities. I have attained this condition in this womb. The jiva, he starts praying like that. So Krishna appears on this earth. Nanatano, Attananatanor. And he does so many different pastimes. Oh Lord, I want to become the object of your mercy now. Yeah. No, not all souls, I told. No? It is only those who are very fortunate of performing devotional service in the past. Only they do that. Not all souls. What is the meaning of Jantu? Yeah, living entity. Jantu is living entity. It's also living entity only. No? But in the previous it is referred as Rishi. That also you should see, na? I only see one point. Rishi. These prayers even great rishis cannot do. Read the purport. Yeah, that's why passion. So this chapter talks about what? Previously it was the passion is like that. What does the passionate devotee say? We'll do that, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. We have a long planning meeting. It went on till 12 o'clock midnight. The next day morning, no Mangalarti, no chanting. So, Prabhu, what about your plan? You wanted to say we are going to today. My rounds are pending. It's something like that. So, the devotee at the same time, passion. That forgets. You forget everything, passion. Read the purport.
The word Chalat Charanaravindam refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who actually walks or travels upon the surface of the world. For example, Lord Ramchandra actually walked on the surface of the world, and Lord Krishna also walked just like an ordinary man. The prayer is therefore offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who descends to the surface of this earth or any part of this universe for the protection of the pious and the destruction of the impious. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that when there is an increase of irreligion and discrepancies arise in the real religious activities, the Supreme Lord comes to protect the pious and kill the impious. This verse indicates Lord Krishna. Another significant point in this verse is that the Lord comes ichchaya, by his own will. As Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Sambhavamyatmamayaya, I appear at my will by my internal potential power. He is not forced to come by the laws of material nature. It is stated here, ichchaya. He does not assume any form, as the impersonalists think, because he comes at his own will, and the form in which he descends is his eternal form. As the Supreme Lord puts the living entity into the condition of horrible existence, he can also deliver him. And therefore, one should seek shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna demands, "Give up everything and surrender unto me." And it is also said in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who approaches him does not come back again to accept a form in material existence, but goes back to Godhead, back home, never to return.
So that living entity goes back home, back never return. That is the subject matter here. Next. Yes, Swatra Baddhaiva Karma Vira Urtantma Bhutendriyashayavanatvin alamvyam Aste Vishuddhamavikaramakandabodham Atapyamana Hridaye Vasitam Namami. Yes, Twatra Baddha Iva Karma Bir Avrutatma. So I pay my obeisances. To whom? Huh? To whom? Iva. Baddha iva karma bhiv avrutatma. That person, Krishna, Supreme Lord, who appears to be covered by Bhutendriya Shayamam Avalambhyamana Mayam, who is covered by the mental senses, the mind, etc. But in spite of that, Aste Vishuddha Avikaram Akhandabodham. He is Avikara. Avikara means unchangeable, indestructible, Akhanda, Bodham, full of knowledge. And Ataptamana Hridaye Avasitum Namami. Namami, I pay obeisances to that person. Atapyamana Hridaye. My Hridaya, heart is Tapyamana. It is what? Tapyamana means very much in distress. And in that, Atapyamana Hridaya, the Lord is sitting. Krishna is sitting. So the living entity is now thinking of Krishna, pastimes of Krishna. He knows that Krishna is in everybody's heart as super soul. We don't know, but he knows. He performed the pastimes, external is Bhagavan, and in the heart he is there as a protector. He says, I offer my obeisances to such Krishna. So last verse, what did he say? Oh, why am I here? Isn't it? Why am I here? Now what does he say? It is good that I am here, because I am suffering my own past karma. So Krishna himself is beyond karma, and I am bound by karma. So it is good that I am here because I am suffering my own karma. Krishna is wandering around here and there. People think this is an ordinary person, but he is not. Why is he not? Because he seems to be human, but he is transcendental, whereas I am bound by the elements. So Akhanda Bodham, he is undivided. Akhanda Bodham, I know him so. Yeah, read the purport.
As stated in the previous verse, the Jiva's soul says, I take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, constitutionally, the Jiva soul is the subordinate servitor of the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Both the Supreme Soul and the Jiva soul are sitting in the same body, as confirmed in the Upanishad. They are sitting as friends, but one is suffering and the other is aloof from suffering. In this verse it is said, Vishuddham Avikaram Akhanda Bodham. The super soul is always sitting apart from all contamination. The living entity is contaminated and suffering because he has a material body. But that does not mean that because the Lord is also with him, he also has a material body. He is Avikaram, changeless. He is always the same Supreme. But unfortunately, the Mayavadi philosophers, because of their impure hearts, cannot understand that the Supreme Soul, the Super Soul, is different from the individual soul. It is said here, Atapyamana Hridaya Avasittam. He is in the heart of every living entity, but he can be realized only by a soul who is repentant. The individual soul becomes repentant that he forgot his constitutional position, wanted to become one with the Supreme Soul, and tried his best to lord it over material nature. He has been baffled and therefore he is repentant. At the time, Super Soul, or the relationship between the Super Soul and the individual soul, is realized, as it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. After many, many births, the knowledge comes to the conditioned soul that the Vasudeva is great. He is master and he is Lord. The individual soul is the servant, and therefore he surrenders unto him. At that time he becomes a Mahatma, a great soul. Therefore a fortunate living being who comes to this understanding even within the womb of his mother has his liberation assured.
So Krishna seems to be a bound person, but he's not bound because it is his own energy which he shows and tries to tell the people that I am bound, but he is not subject to any change. Next. Yap panchabhuta rachite rahita sharire channo etendriya gunartha chidatmakoham tena vikunta mahimanam rishim taminam Vande param prakriti purushayo pumamsam. So, yaha panchabhuta rachite rahitaha sharire. Panchabhuta rachite. The body is made up of 5 elements. Now, the jiva is covered by what? These things. Channo yatendriya gunartha chidatmakoham. Aham, I am, who am I? Chidatmakaha. I am a spiritual spark, chidatmaka. And it is covered by what? Achanna means covered by yatha indriya guna artha. Indriya means senses, guna three modes, and artha means sense objects. Tena vikuntamahimānam rishantaменam vande parama prakriti purushayo puvamsam. So one day I pay my obeisances to whom? To whom? Krishna, Purusham, Pumamsam, who is Prakriti Param, who is transcendental to modes. And also I pay obeisances to whom? Purushayoho. What does that mean? Purushayoho. Is it Divachan, Ekvachan or Bahuvachan? Bahu. Purushayoho. So it refers to the living entity, living entities. And also it refers to Krishna. Because who is Prakriti Param? Param Prakriti Purushayo Pumamsam. So I pay my obeisances to Krishna, who is Prakriti Param, and also pay my obeisances to the Paramatma. Also pay my obeisances to Paramatma. Tena avikunta mahimanam. Mahima means greatness. Is not reduced by he staying in the body. Just by Krishna is staying in the body, does his Mahima reduce? No. So this is the subject. Suppose the question is, if the Lord is transcendental, why is he living in the body? The Lord is transcendental. So even though the Lord is transcendental, he can still be in the body and be transcendental. Like somebody had a question. There was one Maulvi who was giving a class, and all the children were sitting in front of him, madrasa. So he said, God is everywhere. Allah is everywhere. His child asked a question. Is God in stool and urine also? What? How can you say this thing? How can God be there in an auspicious stool? How can you ask this question? You get lost. Why? You only told God is everywhere. I had a question. So this boy, he went to France, and then later on he became a drug addict. It was a party, and then the party was dumped somewhere, and after some time he came back to consciousness. It was some go down kind of thing. Everything was dark. One bulb was hanging, and below the bulb there was a book, and his eyesight went there. There he saw God is everywhere. He is in stool and urine also, but not affected by it. So his all nasha went away because it was his question right from his. Just went and grabbed the book. He found where is the book from. He got the address and went to the address. He knocked. It was morning 3 o'clock. They asked, "What's your name?" He told his Muslim name. They all shocked in France, and somebody Muslim. At 3 o'clock they come to murder or what, terrorists or what. Somehow they did not open. He went from behind, broke the window, got into the toilet. And they are banging. He's not opening the door. He told, "Unless you keep me with you, then I'll not open the door." Then told us, he stayed back with them. That was the Hare Krishna temple, and the book was Back to Art magazine. And later on, he was initiated by Prabhupada as Ravanari Das. Ravanari Das. So he translated many books into Arabic or something like that. I heard about it. He left his body recently, a few years back. So, very interesting. If God is everywhere, then he should be in. He can be there, but still he is not affected by this. Whereas I am in the body, same body, but affected by the modes of nature. That is why I offer my obeisances to the Lord. In spite of he being in the body, he is not his greatness is not affected by the nature, modes of nature with the senses and matter. So read the purport. Yes, definitely. God's body, na? Yes, it's transcendental. That is why it is not affected. Yeah, if you are able to see that everything is Krishna's energy, definitely it is transcendental. It is spiritual. Prabhupada wrote one line, very interesting line, it is very amazing. I don't know where it is, try to find out. These subject matters are transcendental for living entities, for the conditioned soul, but are spiritual for a pure devotee. These subject matters are transcendental for conditioned souls and spiritual for pure devotee. What does that mean? What is the meaning of transcendental? Even it can be beyond you also. Beyond your understanding. Did you understand, bro? No, bro, it's transcendental. Somebody told me, this person is practicing transcendental meditation. I told you, very good. He is doing some meditation which is transcendental to him. That means he cannot understand what it is. He doesn't know what is he doing. It can mean that also. Okay. Yeah, read the purport.
The difference between the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that the living entity is prone to be subjected to material nature, whereas the Supreme Godhead is always transcendental to material nature as well as to the living entities. When the living entity is put into material nature, then his senses and qualities are polluted or designated. There is no possibility for the Supreme Lord to become embodied by material qualities or material senses, for he is above the influence of material nature and cannot possibly be put in the darkness of ignorance like the living entities. Because of his full knowledge, he is never subjected to the influence of material nature. Material nature is always under his control. It is therefore not possible that material nature can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the identity of the living entity is very minute, he is prone to be subjected to material nature. But when he is freed from this material body, which is false, he attains the same spiritual nature as the Supreme Lord. At that time, there is no qualitative difference between him and the Supreme Lord. But because he is not so quantitatively powerful as to never be put under the influence of material nature, he is quantitatively different from the Lord. The entire process of devotional service is to purify oneself of this contamination of material nature and put oneself on the spiritual platform where he is qualitatively one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is said that the living entity is always free. Asango hi ayam purusaha. The living entity is liberated. His material contamination is temporary, and his actual position is that he is liberated. This liberation is achieved by Krishna consciousness, which begins from the point of surrender. Therefore, it is said here, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Person.
Next. Yanmayayorgunakarmadibadhanesmin samsarike patichernamstadabhishramena nashtasmatir punarayam pravinati lokam yuktya kayamadanugraham antarena. So, yuktya kaya mahadanugrahamantarena. How can anybody attain bhakti without anugraha of mahat, anugraha of great devotees? Yan maya mayayoru gunakarma nibadhanesmin, this maya which is binding us to the repeated birth, death, old age and disease. Sansarike padicharnastadabi samena, make us tread the path of sansara, which is full of shrama. Nashtasmritihi, nashtasmriti is losing all its memory, lost its memory. Punarayam pravrinita lokan. How can he think of Krishna, of going back home, back to God, such a person? Kaya, how can it happen? Without Mahad Anugraham Antarena. So, the divinity says, because of Mahad Anugraha, I am thinking this kind of bhakti I have got. It is because of some devotees' blessings I am able to think in this way. There is no other way. My worshipping the Lord in this life, in these prayers, is only because of mercy of devotees, which I had in the previous life. So, read the purport.
The Mayavadi philosophers say that simply by cultivation of knowledge, by mental speculation, one can be liberated from the condition of material bondage. But here it is said, one is liberated not by knowledge, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The knowledge, the conditioned soul gains by mental speculation. However powerful it may be, is always too imperfect to approach the absolute truth. It is said that without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand Him or His actual form, quality and name. Those who are not in devotional service go on speculating for many thousands of years, but they are still unable to understand the nature of the absolute truth. One can be liberated in the knowledge of the absolute truth simply by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly said herein that our memory is lost because we are now covered by His material energy. Arguments may be put forward as to why we have been put under the influence of this material energy by the supreme will of the Lord. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, I am sitting in everyone's heart, and due to me one is forgetful or one is alive in knowledge. The forgetfulness of the conditioned soul is also due to the direction of the Supreme Lord.
A living entity misuses his little independence when he wants to lord it over material nature. This misuse of independence, which is called Maya, is always available. Otherwise, there would be no independence. Independence implies that one can use it properly or improperly. It is not static, it is dynamic. Therefore, misuse of independence is the cause of being influenced by Maya. Maya
It's not talking about a one particular living entity. It is a general description of the person or a family or a jiva born with the mode of ignorance primarily. Now, that jiva, it has gone through all the sinful reactions and it has come to the human form again. Even if you take by logic that this verse talks about, this jiva is thinking about 100 lifetimes. So some human life, he had come in contact with a, even if you take from the point of view, it is the same jiva. This jiva is talking about how many lifetimes? 100 human lifetimes. So it's very difficult to really answer it in one way. But definitely this kind of prayers cannot be done without the jiva being in contact with and bhakti. There is no way. That is why the word is used as yukya kaya. Kaya means what is the meaning of kaya? Last line. Huh? By what means? By what means? Kaya yuktya mahadanugrahamantarena. How can he choose the path of bhakti without mahad anugraham? Yes. Because he knows Krishna, knowing the form of Krishna, transcendental. Now, next. Jnanam yadetadadat katamas sadevas traikalikam stirachareshanuvartisamsha tam jiva karma padavimanuvartamanas tapatrayopashamanaya vayam bhajema. Katamas sadevaha. Katamaha. What is the meaning of katamaha? Who else? Who else other than Sadevaha, that Krishna, Jnanamadat, can give knowledge. So the knowledge which I have got, Mattasmita Gyarpamohancha, the knowledge which I have got now, that is I am speaking the glories of the Lord, it is only given by Krishna. Nobody else can give. So who else other than the Supreme Lord, who is there in my heart, can give the knowledge? And who is he? Traikalikam sthirachareshvanuvartitamsha. He is there in all the three phases of time. And anuvartitamshaha, sthirachareshu. He is there in everybody, every moving and non-moving living entities. Anuvartitamshaha. He is there in everybody's heart. Wherever the living entity goes, this Paramatma also goes. Tam jiva karma padavin anuvartamanas. We are jiva karma padavim anuvartitaha. We are going on the path of karma. And the reason for we to worship Lord is Vayam Bhajama, we all worship Him for what? Tapatrayopashamanaya, for the purpose of destroying Tapatraya. Somebody may say, how can I say the God is there? I am the proof for it. What is the proof? I am able to remember the previous lives. And I am speaking this knowledge. Do you think this knowledge will come by mental speculation? No. It is because of the presence of the Lord in my heart, I am able to speak. Katamat Devaha. Do you think any Devata can do or what? It is only Lord who can make me speak this kind of knowledge. He should be the Lord of all the demigods. Devaha. So definitely the Lord is inferred by it. Yeah. Read the purport.
When a conditioned soul is seriously anxious to get out of the influence of the material clutches, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated within him as a Paramatma, gives him this knowledge: surrender unto me. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, give up all other engagement, just surrender unto me. It is to be accepted that the source of knowledge is the Supreme Person. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Mattar smritir jnana pohanamja. The Lord says, through me one gets real knowledge and memory, and one also forgets through me. To one who wants to be materially satisfied or who wants to be lord it over material nature, the Lord gives the opportunity to forget his service and engage in the so-called happiness of material activities. Similarly, when one is frustrated in the lording it over material nature, it is lording over material nature and is very serious about getting out of this material entanglement, the Lord from within gives him the knowledge that he has to surrender unto him, and then there is liberation. This knowledge cannot be imparted by anyone other than the Supreme Lord or his representative. In the Chaitanya Charitamrut, Lord Chaitanya instructs Rupa Goswami that the living entities wander in the life after life, undergoing the miserable conditions of material existence. But when one is very anxious to get free from the material entanglement, he gets enlightenment through the spiritual master and Krishna. This means that the Krishna at the super soul is seated within the heart of living entity. And when the living entity is serious, the Lord directs him to take the shelter of his representative, a bona fide spiritual master, directed from within and guided externally by the spiritual master. One attains the path of Krishna consciousness, which is the way out of material clutches. Therefore, there is no possibility of one's being situated in his own position unless he is blessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless he is enlightened with the supreme knowledge, one has to undergo the severe penalties of the hard struggle for existence in the material nature. The spiritual master is therefore the mercy manifestation of the Supreme Person. The conditioned soul has to take direct instruction from the spiritual master, and thus he gradually becomes enlightened to the path of Krishna consciousness. The seed of Krishna consciousness is sown within the heart of the conditioned soul, and when one hears the instruction from the spiritual master, the seed fructifies and one's life is blessed.
Now, let's come to the 8th month now. What is he praying? Dehanya deha vivare jatarakninakshrik vinmotra gopapatito brishatapta deha ichannito vivasitum ganayan samasan nirvasyate kripanadhir bhagavan kadanu. Oh Lord, when I'm going to get out of this place? And what is the nature of the place? Huh? What is the nature of the place? Vivare Jataragnina. What is there? Jataragni is what? Fire. And then inside that what is there? In mutra, urine and stool. Mhm. And Vrishatapta Deha. My body is burning. Body is suffering like anything. And I have great desire. Ichannito vivasitum ganayan samasan. To get out of this place, what I have been counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now 8 now and too much now and I'm suffering. Nirvyasyate kripanadhi. I am a foolish person. Nirvasyate. I am foolish, I am childless, I am a useless person. Oh Lord, I am bound with this body which is burning now. So much of this 8th month. I am just counting. And kripanadihi. So please, kadanu, when are you going to take me out of this situation? Once I'm out of this situation, I'll promise you. What is that promise? I'll worship you. I cannot worship you now. I can only pray for you. Take me out. But once I come out, I'm going to worship you. See, purport.
The precarious condition of the living entity within the womb of his mother is described here. On one side of where the child is floating is the heat of gastric fire, and on the other side are urine, stool, blood and discharges. After 7 months, the child who has regained his consciousness feels the horrible condition of his existence and prays to the Lord. Counting the months until his release, he becomes greatly anxious to get out of the confinement. The so-called civilized man does not take account of this horrible condition of life, and sometimes, for the purpose of sense gratification, he tries to kill the child by methods of contraception or aversion. Unserious about the horrible condition in the womb, such persons continue in materialism, grossly misusing the chance of the human form of life. The word krupana dhihi is significant in this verse. Dhi means intelligence and krupana means miserly. Conditional life is for persons who are of miserly intelligence or who do not properly utilize their intelligence. In the human form of life, the intelligence is developed, and one has to utilize that developed intelligence to get out of the cycle of birth and death. One who does not do so is a miser, just like a person who has immense wealth but does not utilize it, keeping it simply to see. A person who does not actually utilize his human intelligence to get out of the clutches of Maya, the cycle of birth and death, is accepted as miserly. The exact opposite of miserly is Udara, very magnanimous. A Brahman is called Udara because he utilizes his human intelligence for spiritual realization. He uses that intelligence to preach Krishna consciousness for the benefit of the public, and therefore he is magnanimous.
Then Krishna said, "Hey, what are you saying? When I am going to come out, why are you asking me? I put you there or what? Like if I put you, then you can ask me when I am going to get out of it. Did I put you?" Then the living entity says, Ye nedrishim gatim saudashamasya isha sangrahita पुरुदयेन भवादृशेन स्वेनैव तुष्यतु कृतेन सदीननाथा को नाम तत्प्रतिविज्ञस्य कुर्यात् येनेदृशीं गतिमसौ दशमास्य ईशा. Now, Purudayena Bhavadrishena. What is the meaning of Bhavadrishena? Incomparable. Purudayena. Purudayena. The blessing of being a devotee. I received the rare blessing. Purudayena. Because of your daya, I received this incomparable daya. I received this blessing of being your devotee. Now, who are you? Deenanatha. What is the meaning? O Lord, be satisfied with my bhakti. Maximum, what I can do? Just fold my hands. Sangrahita purudhayena bhavadrishena svenaiva tushyatu kritena sadinanata ko nama tat prati vinanjalim asya kuryat. I fold my hands. Vinanjalim. Vina asya kuryat. If I try to repay what your mercy, impossible. I can only what I can do maximum, I'll just put my hand. It is not because of you that I am in this condition. It is because of Svenaiva, because of my own karma. I am in this condition. You are so merciful that you have given me your remembrance. And I can repay your mercy only by just. Yeah, read the purport.
As stated in Bhagavad Gita, intelligence and forgetfulness are both supplied by the super soul sitting with the individual soul within the body. When he sees that a conditional soul is very serious about getting out of the clutches of material influence, the Supreme Lord gives intelligence internally as super soul and externally as the spiritual master, or as an incarnation of the personality of Godhead himself. He helps by speaking instructions such as Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is always seeking the opportunity to reclaim the fallen souls to his abode, the kingdom of God. We should always feel very much obliged to the personality of Godhead, for he is always anxious to bring us into the happy condition of eternal life. There is no sufficient means to repay the personality of Godhead for his act of benedictions. Therefore, we can simply feel gratitude with the folded hands. This prayer of the child in the womb may be questioned by some atheist people. How can a child pray in such a nice way in the womb of his mother? Everything is possible by the grace of the Lord. The child is put into such precarious condition externally, but internally he is the same, and the Lord is there. By the transcendental energy of the Lord, everything is possible.
Next. Pasyatyayam dinayannanu sapta vritthir Sharirakedama shariryat parasvadehe Yasrishtya sattamaham purusham puranam Pashye bahiriti cha chaityamiva pratitam. Pashyatyayam dhishnaya nanu saptavadrihi. Sharirike dhana sharira aparasadehe aparaha. There are some people, what they do? They control the senses. They control the sapta dhatu, sapta vadbhir, nanu, tishnaya, sharirike, dhama, shariri, aparaswadehe. And they also see, what do they see? Yat srishtayasam tamaham purusham puranam pashye bahir hidicha chaityam iva pratitam. So they try to control the senses and then these jnanis, but whereas I am concerned, I see the Supreme Lord. It is because of Him, aham purusham puranam pashye, I see the Supreme Lord. It is because of Him I got the intelligence. Chaityam iva pratitam. Hridicha chaityam iva pratitam. I can see Him in my heart, who is the Supreme Lord. I am not another jnani, but I am just a bhakta who is totally surrendered to you. Read the purport.
The evolutionary process of different type of bodies is something like that of a fructifying flower. Just as there are different stages in the growth of a flower, the bud stage, the blooming stage, and the full-fledged grown-up stage of aroma and beauty. Similarly, there are 84 lakh species of bodies in gradual evolution, and there is systematic progress from the lower species of life to the higher. The human form of life is supposed to be the highest, for it offers consciousness for getting out of the clutches of birth and death. The fortunate child in the womb of his mother realizes his superior position and is thereby distinguished from other bodies. Animals in bodies lower than that of the human beings are conscious only as far as their bodily distress and happiness are concerned. They cannot think of more than their bodily necessities of life, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But in the human form of life, by the grace of God, the consciousness is so developed that a man can evaluate his exceptional position and thus realize the Self and the Supreme Lord. The word Dham Shariri means that we have a body in which we can control the senses and the mind. The complication of materialistic life is due to an uncontrolled mind and uncontrolled senses. One should feel grateful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for having obtained such a nice human form of body, and one should properly utilize it. The distinction between an animal and a man is that the animal cannot control himself and has no sense of decency, whereas the human being has the sense of decency and can control himself. If this controlling power is not exhibited by the human being, then he is no better than an animal. By controlling the senses or by the process of yoga regulation, one can understand the position of his self, the supersoul, the world, and their interrelation. Everything is possible by controlling the senses. Otherwise, we are no better than animals. Real self-realization by means of controlling the senses is explained herein. One should try to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead and one's own self also. To think oneself the same as the Supreme is not self-realization. Here, it is clearly explained that the Supreme Lord is Anadi or Purana, and He has no other cause. The living entity is born of the Supreme Godhead as part and parcel. It is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Anadiradir Govindaha. Govinda, the Supreme Person, has no cause. He is unborn. But the living entity is born of him, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mamayivamsha. Both the living entity and the Supreme Lord are unborn, but it has to be understood that the supreme cause of the part and parcel is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma Samhita therefore says that everything has come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sarva Karana Karanam. The Vedanta Sutra confirms this also, Janmadhyasya Yataha. The absolute truth is the original source of everyone's birth. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, I am the source of birth of everything including Brahma and Lord Shiva and the living entities. This is self-realization. One should know that he is under the control of the Supreme Lord and not think that he is fully independent. Otherwise, why should he be put into conditional life?
Soham sannapi vibho bahudukhavasam garbhanna nirjigse bahirandhakupe yatropayatam upasti iva maya mitya matiryadanusmrti chakramitat. So what did he pray in the previous verse? When I'm going to get out, when I'm going to get out. When the Lord told him, hey, you are telling me as if I have put you in this condition. Then he, no, it is because of my karma, I have only come here, oh Lord, you are there, take me out, take me out, take me out. Then Krishna told, because you have worshipped me, you have surrendered to me, and you are suffering in this womb. So, and you also requested that I should take you out of this room. I will take you out of the room. Because you are a bhakta and you are suffering, and you also pray to me that you should get up. They say, no, I want to be here only. Bacha na? So, no, I want to be here only. Garbhanna nirjigga mishye bahiranda kupe. I don't want to get out of this garbha. I want to be here only. Because bahir, if I go out, I'm going to fall in andakupe. Yatra, in that andakupa, yatra upayantam. Once I go there, upasparshati deva maya. What is going to happen? I'll be caught. By whom? Deva maya. Soham vasami. I'll be here only. Api vibho bahudukhavasam. In spite of all the misery, I want to be in the womb only, because once I go to the womb, then I'm going to be caught by Maya. And once I'm caught by Maya, what is going to happen? Mithya matir. I'll get a mati, which is mithya. Because of my false identity, I'm going to yadanusmriti chakrametat. Then I'll continue my. Better I want to be in the womb only. I think that I am this body, this foreign chakra. Read the purport.
As long as the child is within the womb of his mother, he is a very precarious and horrible condition of life. But the benefit is that he revives pure consciousness of his relationship with Supreme Lord and prays for deliverance. But once he is outside the abdomen, when child is born, Maya or illusory energy is so strong that he is immediately overpowered into considering his body to be his self. Maya means illusion, or that which is actually not. In the material world, everyone is identifying with his body. This false egoistic consciousness of I am this body at once develops after the child comes out of womb. The mother and other relatives are awaiting the child. And as soon as he is born, the mother feeds him and everyone takes care of him. The living entity soon forgets his position and becomes entangled in the bodily relationship. The entire material existence is entanglement in the bodily conception of life. Real knowledge means to develop the consciousness of I am not this body, I am spirit soul, an eternal part and parcel of Supreme Lord. Real knowledge entails renunciation or non acceptance of this body as the self. By the influence of Maya, the external energy, one forgets everything just after birth. Therefore, the child is praying that he prefers to remain within the womb rather than come out. It is said that Sukdev Goswami, on his consideration, remained for 16 years within the womb of his mother. He did not want to be entangled in a false bodily identification. After cultivating such knowledge within the womb of his mother, he came out at the end of 16 years and immediately left home, so that he might not be captured by influence of Maya. The influence of Maya is also explained in Bhagavad Gita as insurmountable. But insurmountable Maya can be overcome simply by Krishna consciousness. That is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Mamayeva prapadante mayam etam tarantite. Whoever surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna can get out of this false conception of life. By the influence of Maya only, one forgets his eternal relationship with Krishna and identifies himself with his body and the byproducts of the body, namely wife, children, society, friendship, and love. Thus, he becomes victim of influence of Maya, and his materialistic life of continued birth and death becomes still more stringent.
So now, hey, what do you want? Once you say, take me out, when I'm going to get out? And again you say, I don't want to get out. Nice last verse. Tasmadaham vigata vikal dharishya atmanama tamasasrudatmaneva bhuyo yata vyasanametadane Mame bhavisyadupasadita Vishnupadaha. Vishnupadaha. I have surrendered to your lotus feet. And what I am going to do by meditating on you in my mind, Vigata Vikalva Uddharishya Tasmadaham, I am going to give up my suffering by constantly thinking of you, which is going to make me not to take birth again in this world. Because you are Surad, you are my friend, you are appeared in my mind. Atmana masu tamasaha Surdatmanaiva. You are my friend, and I am thinking of you in my mind, by which I experience a bliss which will so wonderful that this misery is no more a misery for me. It is not. I am unaffected by the misery. So I am going to practice pure devotional service, take shelter of you, and I am just experience the bliss of thinking of your beautiful form. That's all. Whether you keep me in the womb or outside, doesn't matter for me. So this is my request. I don't want anything from you. You decide. You want to keep me in the womb? Keep. Don't keep me. Put me anywhere. But I just want, I have taken shelter of you. Upasadita Vishnupadaha. How do I do that? By meditating on you. So he concludes the prayer by promising and perform pure devotional service. Read the purport.
The miseries of material existence begin from the very day when the spirit soul takes shelter in the ovum and sperm of the mother and father. They continue after he is born from the womb, and then they are further prolonged. We do not know where the suffering ends. It does not end, however, by once changing his body. The change of body is taking place at every moment, but that does not mean that we are improving from the fetal condition of life to a more comfortable condition. The best thing is, therefore, to develop Krishna consciousness. Here it is stated, Upasadita Vishnupada. This means realization of Krishna consciousness. One who is intelligent by the grace of the Lord and develops Krishna consciousness is successful in his life because simply by keeping himself in Krishna consciousness, he will be saved from the repetition of birth and death. The child prays that it is better to remain within the womb of darkness and be constantly absorbed in Krishna consciousness than to get out and again fall a victim to the illusory energy. The illusory energy acts within the abdomen as well as outside the abdomen. But the trick is that one should remain Krishna conscious, and then the effect of such a horrible condition cannot act unfavorably upon him. In Bhagavad Gita it is stated that one's intelligence is his friend and the same intelligence can also be his enemy. Here also the same idea is repeated. Surudatpanaiva, friendly intelligence. Absorption of intelligence in the personal service of Krishna and full consciousness of Krishna always are the path of self-realization and liberation. Without being unnecessarily agitated, if we take to the process of Krishna consciousness by constantly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, the cycle of birth and death can be stopped for good. It may be questioned here how the child can be fully Krishna conscious within the womb of the mother without any paraphernalia with which to execute Krishna consciousness. It is not necessary to arrange for paraphernalia to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. The child wants to remain within the abdomen of its mother and at the same time wants to become free from the clutches of Maya. One does not need any material arrangement to cultivate Krishna consciousness. One can cultivate Krishna consciousness anywhere and everywhere, provided he can always think of Krishna. The Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, can be chanted even within the abdomen of one's mother. One can chant while sleeping, while working, while imprisoned in the womb, or while outside. This Krishna consciousness cannot be checked in any circumstances. The conclusion of the child's prayer is, let me remain in this condition. Although it is very miserable, it is better not to fall a victim to Maya again by going outside.
Hare Krishna. We stop here. We'll continue tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock. Yes. Ah. Yeah, there is an eternal question of the Christians. They against the Christianity or some kind of Christians. They say, if God is all powerful, then he is not merciful. If he is all merciful, then he is not all powerful. Because if he is all powerful, then he should remove the miseries. Huh? He is not doing in spite of all being all powerful because of he doesn't have mercy. If he is all merciful, he wants to remove the miseries, but he is not able to do because that is not. So, but yeah, but we know the Lord is all powerful at the same time all merciful. He is all powerful at the same time all merciful. So it is our ignorance not able to perceive this thing. So my suffering is not because of anybody else. That is what the living entity says. My suffering is what? Svena. It is by my own. My suffering is because of me. It is not because of the Lord. It is not because of anybody. And what is the reason for my suffering? It is my ignorance. And you may say the suffering is given by the Lord, and the suffering is given by the Lord to remove our ignorance. So the suffering is not a suffering at all. Rather, the suffering what we undergo is because of the mercy of the Lord. If you are able to realize every suffering which I undergo is the mercy of Krishna, that is called self-realization. If you think it is suffering and because it's because of somebody else, then it is your ignorance. And that's what the Jiva concludes with all the prayers, saying, you kept me here, kept me out, I am suffering, and at the end says, it is because of your mercy that I am able to think of you, and by thinking of you, experience the bliss by which I have no more misery. Okay? Okay, we stop here. Tomorrow we'll meet at 11 o'clock to continue. Jantu.